is the introductory session. So we will just cover the introduction part of the technical writing, that what it is and how and why we should go for it. Okay. All right. So before going ahead, we'll do a small opening activity today. I hope everyone has a notepad and pen ready. If not, you can just grab a pen and a notepad if you don't have it right now. So are we ready for the activity? All right. So there's a term called as business management. Now, what you have to do is, I'll give you 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, whatever comes to your mind related to business management, it could be keywords, it could be some points that you have to note down in your notepad. So on the screen, there is a definition given for technical writing. It says technical writing is basically informative writing, and it has three things: technique, science, and engineering. All right. Now, I want someone of you, I mean, someone among you who can explain me what are they meaning to say by technique. So again, you have defined, I mean, a detailed version of the process of the business management. Now, the next question that I asked everyone was that, do you consider it under technical writing? Okay, all right. So let me tell you, the content that you have covered comes under technical, but the entire thing cannot be considered as a full technical writer. But yes, it is a sub part of it. So that much we can consider. Going ahead, so on the screen, there are three terms: technique, science, and engineering. And technical writing is all about these three. So Deepak told that technique is how we write it. Anyone who has anything to add on it? Okay. All right. So technique, yes, very near to what Deepak said, that technique means the way you present the data, the whole structure of the data. So obviously, when you will be going ahead with a technical writer, you should have a technique attached to it. That means you should know how to go ahead with the entire structure. What should be the style? What should be the formatting? So all those things come under technique. I hope this is clear to everyone. What is technique? Now, this is a term that we have heard right from our school times, science. So, what do we understand by this and how we can connect it to technical writing? Any idea? So, anything which is related to science, that's what you are saying. Application, right? Okay, no problem. Yes, anyone else who wants to add anything? So, if you can give a real, the meaning of the word science, that's the hint for you. So, that's how you can connect it with technical writing. So, if we understand the meaning of the word science, so yes, science is something which can be explained with logic, right? You cannot just have imaginative writing in technical writing. So that's why the term science is given to this. That everything that you cover will be supported by actual facts. For example, if I ask you to write something about business management, you will have to give me the facts or the content that has some relevance, or something which you can give as a supporting data to it. So the actual facts and figures talk about science, and this is all about technical writing. Is that clear? The term science, how we can connect it with technical writing. So anything which can have a logic, which can have a supporting facts, can be considered under technical writing. It cannot be imaginary. That's what we are trying to highlight here. Okay. Now let's come to the third term, which is engineering. All right. Anyone who is from engineering background, nobody. All right. Now, so science and engineering, these two terms are interrelated. Now, when we say that something which should be related to logic and fact, engineering means the practical implementation. So, for example, if you have a computer science engineer, what is expected out of him? To use the knowledge that he has. So, for example, if he has learned Java, or if you have learned any other language, so being an engineer, you will be expected to have a practical approach to it. Same follows for any department, be it be mechanical, civil, electronics, electrical. So all sorts of, when we talk about this term engineering, we want to say that whatever we have, the knowledge or the science that we have learned theoretically, whether we are able to practically implement it or not, right? So that is engineering. Because once I am giving the fact, I should be actually able to practically formalize it. it. For example, like Abhijit said, that we can have some science, some stuff related to science. For example, we have research papers. Okay. So now in research papers, whatever we have written in the content, it should be practically possible to implement that also. Otherwise, there is no use of that whole time, right? For example, if I write a product manual, whatever process I have shown there, suppose you have shown for a microwave oven, so I think everyone has seen that product, the user manuals, right? For any of the products, you would have seen it, right? For a remote, for any other electronic components. Yeah. So what happens? There is a process given that okay, this is part one. You have to attach here. You have to use this much temperature to cook this and that. Now, practically also that should be feasible. It's not that just for the sake of writing we did it, and then practically when we actually started doing it, it was not happening. So that should not be the case. So there should be a proper format talking about technique. Then there should be logical facts talking about science, and it should be practically implementable. That is engineering. I hope all these three terms are clear to everyone. Now, the other point that it mentions says that it is used to convey complex information to a specific audience. So let's take an example of a product manual. Now, what happens? There is this device, this microwave oven or a dishwasher. Now, these are complicated apparatus. You don't know how to operate them. So that's the idea. Being a technical writer, you have to form a document which is commonly known as your user manual or the product manual, wherein you convert that information into a form which is understandable to the audience. So that is the whole idea, that you can convey the most complex and the most difficult information to a specific audience. Now, it will not be that every time it will be a layman, it could be an expert also. For example, when you write something for white paper and research paper, those are given to a particular panel of experts. So there your write-up should be according to the audience. So it will change according to kind of the audience. That's what the entire technical writing is all about. Now let's understand the application. Now if you see this slide, I always tell to every batch that it should give you a comfort level that you are at the right place. Because if you see here, there is no field that is untouched with technical writing. See, firefighting, science, drafting, engineering, government, business, medicine, trades, technology, everywhere a technical writer is required. So, I mean, if you are worried about how or why, and if I'll be able to survive in the market, this is a very good experience. That I mean, the piece of information that you can comfort yourself with. So there is no field, even in government services, the kind of tenders or the kind of information or the documents that are prepared, there are people, experts who are doing it. So all that work is done by technical writer. Even in medicine, like Shiba said, that there is something called as medical writing. So yes, that's a part of technical writing. Then business writing, we write a lot of business proposals, the white papers. So all those are for business. Engineering, again, research papers. So everywhere technical writing is required. Now earlier, the days where people used to prepare the software, they used to work on the software, but then there was no hardcore documentation done for it. But now, just to reuse the content, technical writing has taken a lot of importance in the market, right? That's why this is an upcoming career opportunity, and also good for for, because this is, it can be used in any of the departments. So this you can be rest assured that you are doing the correct thing. Okay. All right. Before I go ahead, I have a question regarding the sentence that is written here. What do you think? What kind of sentence is this? I mean, will it be advisable to write such sentence in your technical write-up? Correct. So now let's come to the fact that how we can you know convert this into something which is understood by a layman. So anyone else who would like to suggest any idea how we can convert this sentence into a one that is more understandable, maybe? So how do we understand this? Actually, this whole sentence is deliberately written here. The meaning you will understand if you are able to convert it into a simple form. So it says that if the writer is not able to make the audience understand, he has failed in his job. So if you want to be a good technical writer, you will have to come to that level of the audience. Whether or not your own knowledge could be higher than that, maybe sometimes. So you will, you'll have to step down to that level and try to explain that thing from their point of view, right? So that's why this whole sentence can be actually broken down into bullet points, as Abhijit said, and we can make it a simpler. Correct. Now, this whole slide talks about the entire objective, or why we are going ahead and doing this technical writing. Number one is that whatever facts I have to convey to a specific type of audience. Now, there are some terms that will again and again come in the entire course. Why? Because these are the main highlighters of your entire course. Uh, Facts to the specific audience. That means that whatever complex information you have, uh, my goal as a technical writer is that I am able to convey that information to that specific audience. It could be an expert, it could be a business person, it could be a layman, but based upon that, my write up should change and it should fulfill this goal. Now, second point, it says explain procedures. So we have already discussed this that while we are writing the product manual, what do? We try to explain in the form of a procedure. So for example, we might give step one, step two, step three. So that means all the information that you are providing should have proper procedure to it, right? So that would again make your stuff as a good technical writer. Third one says critically evaluate evidence. Any idea about this third point? What are they trying to say? Critically evaluate evidence. Yeah. So, yeah, the point is very much the same as Deepak said. Like, for example, we said that my data should be supported with facts. Now, how can you say that it is, so you will have to verify it. So, when you say critically evaluate evidence, that means whatever data has been provided, there should be a supporting document to verify that yes, the data is authentic. It's not that you just give a cooked up story. So remember, people, we have done these science experiments in our 10th and 12th classes. Do you remember any of the experiments where we used to do it and then we used to take the reading? So when you are giving some facts, it has to be ethical, it has to be authentic, so that the reader is satisfied with your writer. I hope this point is clear to everyone. Now, the last point is adapt to the needs of the audience. I don't think I have to explain to you. We have already discussed that when we are standing in the place of the audience, I have to understand what they actually need. So, when I'm writing a product manual, I know that my audience require that they should understand this product. When they, unpack the component, unpack the whole device, they should be able to reassemble it, they should able to use it. So that need of the audience should be very much clear in your mind as a technical writer. So these are the four goals that we work around for any of the technical writers. Okay, now having said that, now you have to go back to your write-up that you have written about business management. And now again you have 2 minutes. Try to, okay, let's take 5 minutes now because we want to convert it into something called as technical writing. So let's take 5 minutes and try to, based upon the understanding that you got from the first opening activity till now, try to convert it into a technical writer. All right. Now, there is this slide in front of you which talks about a comparative study of technical versus creative writing, right? So, this talked about the comparison. Now, why we are comparing this? Because sometimes we might get confused with creative. So sometimes we write something which actually comes under the category of creative writing. So that's why you should know the do's and don'ts of the technical writing, or as a technical writer, what all things you should follow. Now, talking about the content, technical writing will always have facts in it. It will not be imaginative. It will not be a cooked up story. It will always be based upon your facts. And that is why the language used is also very straightforward. It doesn't have any phrases in it. It doesn't have any metaphorical instances where you're comparing it with you're giving an analogy or something like that. It'll be very it will be straightforward, talking about or talking to the specific audience. Now, if it is creative writing, it will more be imaginative, because it is all about your creative thinking. So that's the difference in the content. Talking about audience, normally in technical content, it's always a specific audience, as we have discussed. But in creative writing, it's for general use. For example, you have a novel, you have a story, so that is read by everyone, right? So the audience is general. Purpose of technical writing, always it is to inform. Now, when I told you to write something about business management, the overall objective is that when the reader reads it, he or she understands what is business management, what are the processes, what are the problems, what are the challenges. That means I want to inform and instruct my readers rather than giving them an entertainment. So it's not a story that I am representing it for entertainment basis. So that's why this is the difference in the purpose. Okay, style, always, because it is fact based, straightforward, it will always be formal and standard. Maybe boring, but it is formal and standard. Sometimes it is easier also, because when we have a specific format, writing becomes easy because we will have some standards for it. So every type of writing will have some style guide which you have to follow. Whereas in style, in creative writing, it cannot be formal, because then it will take away the charm of it, right? So that's why it is informal. It is a way of, it is an art that we represent. So that's why it will be artistic. Tone. Now, anyone understands what this term means? Tone. So, okay. Now, tone is actually the way you present the fact. Okay. Now, in the case of creative, it will always be open ended. It will always be a story behind it, right? But when you talk about technical, it will always be in the form of a quiz. So that means that whole technical write-up, if I start making an objective, it will be very easy. It will not be an open ended, unlike creative. So that's why we can say that it has a formal tone, right? It is more towards the actual facts. So that's why the tone maintained here is formal. Okay. And the tone in the creative writing will always be informal, based upon the subjective facts, not the facts, but the subjective instances that you are covering in the creative writing. Okay, talking about the vocabulary, always, somebody was talking about the jargons, right? Yes. So in technical write-up, you will have more of technical terms. A specialized vocabulary will be used. Again, your life becomes easy because everything related to the topic, related to that particular topic, there will be some set of terms that you should know. It's not that you should be, a PhD mentor of English language to write some good stories and novels. Because in technical writer, we are just sticking to the point of the topic. And that's why the vocabulary will always be specialized. Unlike creative, where we can have general, evocative means something which gives you an inspiration, or maybe sometimes provoke you also. Right? Have you seen those write-ups or articles that are written in an activist form, right? So, for example, when this corona wave, the first wave and second wave was there, so people used to just criticize everything, maybe for the government, maybe for the situation. So, while you read that content as a reader, that creates a kind of a feeling, maybe a bitter feeling or whatever you can say. So, technical writing has no what do you say, scope for emotions. It will always be fact based, whatever is the kind of write up and whatever is the topic, based upon the objective and the audience, you have to just follow the content. Okay, talking about the organization, obviously, when you are writing something straightforward and formal, it will always be in sequential and systematic form, like a flow chart, like step by step process. Okay, let me ask you. Everyone has seen some or the other recipe, right, of any of the dishes. Everyone would have seen it, right? Now, anyways, my idea of discussing this was that where do you consider, what category will you put in the recipe, whether it is a technical writing or a creative writing? Obviously it is a full form of technical writing, because there are steps involved in it. And that is also, people think, one of the myths that people have, that technical writing is all about software coding, documentation. It's not like that. Anything which has a proper organization of data with the process is considered to be a technical writing. So even if your product manual or a user manual or a recipe is, I mean, if you have seen this how to WikiHow, how do they convert this data? They have some supporting one or two lines. Then they have process step one, step two, step three, and likewise. So they have a picture for every step and one or two lines for it, right? That's how they do it. So if you find for any of these steps, for example, you want to see how to put dishes or how to use a dishwasher, for example. So they will give you step one, step two, step three with the pictures and one or two lines of the content. So this is how, this is again a technical writer, because everything is going in a structured way. So that is about the organization. Whereas in creative, again, so to maintain that artistic effect, it will always be arbitrary. You don't, I mean, it will not be in a stepwise procedure form, right? So this is the
Mm.
difference between technical and creative. Okay, now one small exercise that we'll be doing here. So I hope the screen is visible. There are two columns given here. One is for creative writing. The second one is for fiction writing. Now, what you have to do is you have to assume that there is one more column for technical writing. So, based upon whatever you read in creative and fiction, you have to give me the facts which will come under technical writing. Let's see the next slide here. So as we have now understood the difference between technical, creative, fiction. Now let's talk about the focus. So as a technical writer, my entire focus should be on 3 points. Now these 3 points you have to remember. This is a very important slide because whatever write-ups you will be writing going forward, you will have to maintain these three things in all your write-ups. So let's see what are they. Number one says accuracy. Number two, clarity. And number three, being concise. Okay. Now, anything that we understand by the term accuracy in terms of technical writing? All the write-ups that you are writing should have facts and supporting evidence to for those facts. So, because we say that technical writing is fact-based, accuracy would mean correct representation of those facts in the write-up. Okay. For example, let's compare it with the write-up that we wrote in the activity. So we all have written something related to business management. Now, if we talk about facts, that means whatever terms and keywords that you have used, they should be quite practically implementable in your business management. So, for example, somebody said employability, or you said staffing, or you said controlling, or you said SWOT analysis. So, these things should be practically possible when we talk about business management, right? That means that is the meaning of accuracy. Okay, now secondly, it is clarity. Okay, what do we understand by clarity when we talk about the technical writing? Okay, so pretty much same. One is that it should be understood by the audience. Second is that it should have simple sentences. The entire point of bringing this clarity here is to ensure that your whole content is error free. So that means in terms of grammar, in terms of syntaxes and rules. So the language that you are using here is English, right? So all that English grammar and rules should be put appropriate, should be in place, so that I can say that my content has clarity. So that means whatever I write, I have to double check it. I have to check that whether the spellings are correct, the sentence structure is correct. It should be simple, short sentence. We also have a principle called as KISS principle, which says keep it simple and short. So we should follow all those things while we are writing. So all that will come under clarity. Okay, let's talk about being concise. Okay, any idea what does this mean? Being concise in technical writing. So unlike creative writing that we do, being concise means that I have to have straightforward sentences, simple and moreover, if I talk about only the data that is directly related should be given here. That means if my topic is to talk about business management, it should specifically talk about business management, not about any other term related to business. Okay. So if I'm just talking about the management of the entire business, I have to talk about only the technicalities of that. So that is how you will ensure that your data is concise. Otherwise, you will end up writing pages and a detailed version of it, and then it will lose the interest of the audience, right? Because when you go ahead and start researching for any topic, there's a hell lot of data that you will get. Agreed? So if I put business management in Google, it will give me so many articles, so many published papers. Now how to decide which one to take and which one to leave? That's how you will decide, by being very specific, that whatever has been asked, you only talk about that particular thing. So that is the meaning of being. Now, also they have, put in bold, should not. That means these are the two things strictly that should not be the part of your technical writing. Number one, subjective, and number two, metaphorical. That means that technical writing doesn't have a scope of writing, as Shiva said, the essays and the detailed, the history. All that cannot be given unless it is related to the topic, unless it is related to directly to the object. Okay. Metaphorical means you put all phrases like we put it in creative writing. So we give, all that glitters is not gold, something like that. And then we give the entire story. So all those kind of imaginative or using the analogies and metaphors, all that is not allowed in technical writing. You just have to be very specific, straightforward, and simple. And again, this is an advantage of being in this process, because everything has to be to the point, technical. So you don't have to put your mind in the creative end, right? So that is one good thing about it. Okay. All right. Now let's read this sentence. So there is one fact given here. Increasing the temperature caused a large change in the reaction rate. Now, what did we discuss? That there are three focus points that we need to check for anything that we are writing in technical writing, right? Now, what are those 3 points? So accuracy, clarity, and conciseness. Accuracy means facts and figures. Clarity means your grammar part, and conciseness means simple sentences, to the point sentences. Okay. Now let's talk about each point, seeing that this sentence approves for all the 3 points or not. All right. Now, this was all about accuracy. Now, coming to clarity, how do I ensure that my write up is clear? So, a given report should be clear, informative, and understandable. Otherwise, what will happen? The readers won't be interested in reading it. Now, reading this entire stuff, does it look understandable to you? The one that is written on the screen? It is, because instead of writing a long sentence, what did they do? Points into pointers, so that you can go ahead and see all the bullet points and remember them. You remember those days when we used to study, we always used to make those pointers, right? So
Right.
pointers are easy to remember as well. So that is the whole idea of the technical write-up also. Not that everything has to be converted in pointers, but yes, the instances where you can, you should make it in a pointer form. So this is how you can ensure the clarity. So it should be informative also. Information should be implemented there. Understandability, of course, it could be only when you have prepared proper facts with proper English, everything, and that's how you will be able to attract the readers. Otherwise, they will lose interest. Okay. Now let's see. Clarity, for clarity, you should also ask yourself these questions. So these are the questions you will have to ask yourself. So there are three things that you have to ask yourself before even starting the whole write-up project. One is, do I understand what I have written? Okay, what do you understand by this? Do I understand what I have written? So what is this question all about? In order to make sure that your audience understands, what is the first thing that you have to ensure? That you yourself are able to understand or not. Do you agree that if I myself will not understand this whole PPT, will I be able to explain you? Right? I can't. So that's why whatever you write as a technical writer, the the concept has to be clear in your mind. If you are preparing a product manual or a user manual, it's very important that being a technical writer, you yourself have gone through that product. Maybe you have seen the real assembly of that product. Maybe you have seen the working or the the starting and how to stop and how to grill, and that's how you will understand. and that's how you will be able to write it in a way that people can understand. I hope the point is clear. Now the second question says, do I believe in what I have written? Okay, what do we understand by this question? So how do you make sure that you believe in the content? For example, whatever you wrote for business management, so you understood. That's why you were able to write. So first question is clear. Now coming to the second question, that do you believe in that? So how do you explain this question? That means the practical implementation has to be there, right? So that means that engineering part. Remember, technical writing. Engineering was the part where we said that practical implementation. So you will only be able to believe in your content if you have supported it with facts, right? Facts which are actually practically feasible. Then only you yourself will believe that content. Now coming to the third question, do I care about what I have written? Do I care about what I have written? How do you ensure that you care about what you have written? So when I say do I care about what I have written means that whether I care about this thing that the audience will understand or not. Or I am just writing because I have a job to write. That's why I'm just scribbling the point. And I'm not at all concerned that whether this will be understood by my end user or not. So that should not be the case. You yourself should take the ownership of the entire content that you are writing. Personal commitment is very important because everyone, there are so many technical writers. I gave all four of you the same thing to write, but then there are different ways in which you presented your data, right? Now, but in any of the things that you were writing, there should be this question in your mind that whether what I am writing will be understood by the end user or not, right? So you have to write in a way which is understood to the audience. So here audience play a very important role. Okay, so I hope these three questions are clear. So accuracy is ensured by facts. Clarity is ensured by all these answering these questions. Now coming to conciseness, the third point that we discussed about being concise. So there are certain points that you will have to see. Number one, it says your plans define your end results. Okay. Now let's come to different keywords that are given here, and by that you have to understand that how you will go ahead and do your writing. Okay. Now your first step towards writing. What do you do? When I said that please write something about business management, what was the first thing that you did? What was the first thing? Do we just start scribbling or do we think for a while? We think, right? So either you think, if you have less time, you just think. If you have more time, you will research also, right? You can put business management in Google browser and then you try to find out what all matter I can find, and from that you can take and extract some information. So all that work that you do even before writing is the planning phase. So that plan should define your end result. End result means the writing part that you have done. So that means there should be a direct relationship between the preparation that you did and the final write-up that you wrote. It's not that you researched on something else, I mean on some other points, and you finally wrote something else. That should not be the case. So if you want it to be concise, your planning phase should match with your end result. That means whatever conclusion or whatever solutions that you have provided. Is that clear? All right. Now coming to second point. Second point says your future plans should be in sync with your current plans. Now let's talk about. Have you seen a heading in some of the articles? It says future scope. Have you seen that? Future scope and recommendations, something like that. So suppose we were writing something about an app. Can be done. So suppose there was this app launched, which is version 1.0. Now in that article, I have written a small paragraph saying future scope, where I say that okay, within a year, you will have one more version, 2.0 version, which will have more whatever features. Okay, so that's the future scope of this app, right? Now that future scope should be feasible with the current one. That is the whole point. So if you are showing some recommendations or some solutions in your writing, it should match with the current thing that is going on. Otherwise, what will happen? Audience will think that the data is not authentic, right? So that feasibility has to be there. If you are writing some future scope for your business management, that should match with the current facts that you have mentioned. I hope this point is clear to everyone. Yeah. Okay. Now, talking about a goal-oriented approach, this is very much a self-explanatory. Whatever goal is, now how do you decide the goal of an article? How do we decide that what is the goal of this article? The topic, right? Number one is the topic that you have. Now there are other things also that will decide the goal. Let's discuss them. So there are these five W's and one H that you have to answer, or you should get the answer from the person who has given you this work. Okay, five W's means what are those WH questions? What, where, why, when, and who. Right. So these are five W's and one H is how. Okay, so these are six keywords, or you can say the question words that I have, that should be answered by somebody who has given you this work, and only getting the whole answer of all these questions can you decide the fate of your writing. So, for example, from now on, whenever I tell you to write something, you should better ask me that, okay, for whom we are writing it, who is the audience, why we are writing it, what is the purpose of the document, right? When and where could be there, could not be there. It's optional. Okay. Why we are writing, for whom we are writing, and what we are writing. Now, what can be decided based upon the goal, right? And how we have to write would mean the formatting or the styling of the stuff. Okay. Now, next point says research and display only essential information. We have discussed this time and again that whenever we are writing, we only have to mention the facts which are essential for that article. Otherwise, you will have so much of data. You cannot cover everything in your article. You should cover only the points that are directly related to the W's and H, that the answers that you have got, right? So it should be basically related to the answers of those question words, right? Okay. And finally, you should have a particular format. Going forward, we will be learning more formatting options. So from now on, whatever you will write should be in a proper format. We have already discussed the skeleton, right? That it will start with abstract, then it will have introduction and so on. So all that should be in place, right? So what happens? Allow your audience to find things in an organized fashion. Only when you will write it in systematic and organized form will you be able to get your audience, they'll be attracted to the writer. Otherwise, they will lose it. Now, these are the skills that you, being the technical writer, should have. Number one, moving hand in hand with technology, focusing on clarity in writing, use infographics to the best of your ability, be patient while problem solving, and finally, interact and take feedback. Okay, people who are already in writing, I don't think that they need any explanation on this, because these are certain things that you are already doing it. Now, let's see the first point, hand in hand with technology. Very important to be updated. And this is the reason you are going for this course. Like Shiva said that she is interested in writing, right? So, writing, being interested in something is one thing, but then having a structured training, a certified training on that will make you more skillful. Do you agree? Yes, people. You have all the skills, and you are updated from the technology front as well, right? So moving hand in hand with technology means that you are well updated in terms of technology, right? For example, there is this tool Google Scholar. Has anyone used it? Google Scholar. Okay, now Google Scholar is same as Google. It's kind of a browser, but the only difference is that it has more filtered options. For example, you were writing something about business management. Now, let's say you want to find out last 5 years report of the companies who have got good, huge profit. Okay, so what you will do, you will just put their range of the year. So you can just put that from 2018 to 2021. I want only the stuff from these years. So it will only give you the published material within that time range. Okay, so that way your job becomes easy. It will decrease, I mean, it will save your time also, and it will save the overall cost on the, if we talk about the company, the overall cost and time both are saved, right? Do you agree? So that is one of the tools that we can use. There are so many other tools as well. But you can always try after the class. You can just put Google Scholar and try to navigate through it. So it's a very good tool. On the left hand side, you have a lot of options. So that's how you can have a refined search. So you will not have to go for entire data. You can just have the data directly that what you want to have. So there are so many options to them. Okay, clarity we have already discussed that we should be clear in terms of grammar, in terms of facts. So everything should be there. Okay, what is the meaning of infographics? Do you have any idea? What is infographics, people? Okay, now I have come back to the slide. Do you see the slide? The comparative one. This they have put in the form of graphics. Now, be it be in the form of a paragraph, would you like to read it? No, because it's a very long paragraph with all the pointers, and then it becomes very boring, monotonous. But when it is shown in this graphical form, it looks good in a form of a table, right? So this is one example of infographics. We can have a lot of pie charts. We can have linear graphs. We can have infographics like this one, the one which has content, but it is in a graphical in a picture form. So all that comes under infographics. Now this surely will increase the attraction of the audience. We cannot say just that we can just have the infographics. We certainly have to have the content also, but supporting that content, the infographics gives a high leverage to that content. Is that clear? Okay. Now the last second last point it says be patient while problem solving. Actually, this line follows for all types of job profiles. It's not only about writing. Any job that you are going to, I hope everyone agrees who has been into a job, that there are certain challenges associated with all kinds of jobs, right? If you don't, if you don't keep your cool, you will, as he said, it will just blast, right? So that you have to maintain. Now, being a writer, sometimes it becomes a very monotonous job. Sometimes it happens, right? What am I doing? I'm just writing the same thing over and over again. Don't know why am I writing it. I want it to be imaginative, but right now I'm ending up in writing what customer wants. Now this will happen more for a technical writer. Why? Because there the scope of creativity is zero. So here you have to write everything in a format, but you have to be patient in understanding the entire process because everything takes time. Okay. Now, even if you are into software coding, so many test cases have to be run. So that is what you have to, the key is that you have to be patient. You have to understand and believe in what you are doing. Then only you'll be able to do something, pep talk type of pointer is here. Okay. Last one, interact and take feedback. Okay, how do you think that taking feedback would help in a technical writing? What do you think? Like, because when you draw, remember that diagram that we used to draw for a machine: input, output, a channel, and then a feedback. Remember? So
Yes.
always in every system we should have a feedback. Otherwise, we cannot increase the efficiency of the output. So that's why proper feedback is very important. Okay, now then what do we mean by interact? आप अगर if you are writing about a software coding, let's suppose we are documenting some code that Abhijit has prepared. Okay, now I have to document it. Now until and unless I talk to the coder, I talk to that subject matter expert, I am not going to do justice to my content because me myself is not the expert. I am the writing expert, but I can just be an expert only when I consult with everyone. So I will have to consult with the coder. I will have to consult with the technicians who are working on that product, and then only I will be able to write the good content. So, interaction with the SMEs and taking feedback wherever possible. So, the very first step to take feedback should be your own teammates.